You know, sometimes you just have to take a break from the norm, and today I'm gonna take that break. We're making pulled pork. We're gonna brine it first overnight before smoking it and shredding it into delicious, juicy pulled pork sandwiches. My name is Rich. This is RACZ Barbecue and Grill. Let's get cooking. Brining a pork shoulder for pulled pork today. I just have a 5-pounder, so kind of small. I usually like to clean it up, any of the hard fat that's on there, but this one looks pretty good. Maybe a little bit here on the side. You know, get the hard fat off of there. Any silver skin you may see. This one doesn't have much of a fat cap, so I think we're good. I think we're ready. I am going to score it just across the top here a little bit. You could do it on the bottom if you have a fat cap, but since we don't have a fat cap, it doesn't make much of a difference in this case. Just some place for the rub to settle into as we're doing this. And it gives it a little pretty look too sometimes. Not a necessary step, something I like to do. Alright, just like that. Set this to the side and we'll get the brine solution going. So, nothing complicated with the brine solution. We're going to start with a gallon of 100% apple juice. And you can cut this in half. Your brining container is small enough to allow it to cover the shoulder once you get it in there. This one isn't. It's a little bit too big for a 5-pounder, so if you got a smaller container and you're doing a 5-pound, you probably cut all this stuff in half. So 1 gallon of apple juice, and we're gonna go with 1.5 cups of kosher salt and the beer of your choice. Doesn't matter. And then just whisk that all up, get most of that salt dissolved, and then in goes the pork shoulder. That's it. That's our brining solution. We're going to throw this in the refrigerator overnight, 18 to 24 hours. The longer the better. We'll probably be closer to like the 18-hour mark. I'm going to pull this out tomorrow morning and get it ready for the smoker. Okay, pork shoulder's been in the brine overnight. It's been 20 hours, so a little bit more than I thought I was going to have it in there for. Like I said, 18 to 24 hours is what you want to shoot for. We're just going to pull it out. And we're not going to rinse it off. It's a big enough piece of meat that it can handle the excess. So let's let some of the excess brine liquid drop off. And she's ready. And you can see, and it's not a concern, I just wanted to point it out, how some of it started to turn a little bit of a tannish or gray color. That's just the brine solution tenderizing the meat, so it's nothing to worry about. It was in the refrigerator, so there's no possibility of anything growing on it. Since it's also been in the brine for so long, it's nice and wet. We're not going to need any kind of a binder. So we're just going to roll with what we have. I'm going to use my homemade pork rub. I'll leave a recipe in the description below for it. It contains no salt. Usually I put salt on first and let it sit for a little bit before I use this, but again, since we're in a salt brine, we don't need to put any more salt onto this before we do the barbecue rub. So just liberally put this stuff on. And then in those score marks that we made yesterday. All sides, right? You get nice and covered. I have the pellet smoker preheating at 225 degrees behind me. We're going to throw this in there. We're going to let it run until we hit the stall. So 155, 160. Alright, that looks good. And I'm out of gloves, so I only have one today. Okay, rub's on. It's ready for the smoker. Alright, so that's going to take a few hours to hit that stall temperature. I know a lot of people when they're starting out barbecuing, especially with something as large as this, that takes hours, you know, it takes a better part of your day for you to get done. The question is how long, right? And a lot of times online, the response back to those questions are, you cook the temperature and that's it. And they're right, but we all need an estimate of time, right? You're gonna have a party, you want to know when you should put this thing on so it'll complete. So my rule of thumb with the pork shoulders or the pork butts is I give myself an hour and a half per pound. That generally gets me close to whatever the end time is that I'm shooting for. And then I start a little bit earlier because I'd rather it be done earlier than not in time. I got a bunch of people starving, getting cranky on me and stuff. So when it does get done earlier, I'll show you how to keep it hot until you're ready to serve it, until you're ready to pull it. Once this thing is done, we'll let this thing roll better part of the day and get back to it later. All right, so the shoulder's been in the smoker for 5.5 hours now. We're at 155 right now. So we've hit the stall. I'm gonna pull this out and double wrap it in some foil. I'm gonna bring up the sides. Make a nice little cradle for it. Add, I don't know, probably about 1/4 cup of apple juice to the bottom. Just for a little extra moisture. So we're going to crank the temperature up in the smoker to 350 degrees. Put the wrapped pork shoulder back inside and let it ride until we get to somewhere around 200 degrees. We'll check on it. Keep an eye on the temperature as we go. Once it hits that ideal temperature for pulling, we'll get this thing shredded up. Okay, the shoulder's at 198. We just took a look at it and it's good. Nice and tender. You can tell just by pushing on it and squeezing on it, it's ready to give. So we're gonna pull it out. Like I was saying, we're a little bit early, so I got a couple hours before dinner. So I'm gonna show you how to keep this stuff hot when you get done early like this. So this is nothing more than a foam cooler I found at my local grocery store. You can use a small beer cooler as well. You just want to double wrap it in foil like we did before you put it in there. Set it in, fill all the empty space with some towels. We don't want any empty space with air in there basically. Close it up and you'll be good for up to 4 hours with this. Keep an eye on the temperature if you're going to go that long. You don't want to drop below 140 is when you start getting into the danger zone. So you want to make sure that it doesn't get too cold down on you, but I've held for at least 4 hours before doing this. So we're going to set this to the side and then we'll pull it when it's time to eat dinner. Okay, it's dinner time, so we're going to get this out of our makeshift cooler. Carefully, because we got that juice in there too. That stuff smells incredible, and if we did right, the fun part, this bone should pull out pretty clean. There we go. It's a beautiful thing. And you can see this thing is still steaming and it's been wrapped up for a couple hours, so the cooler really does good. Now it's just time to shred. You can use your hands and just pull it apart, or if it gets to be too hot, get yourself some bear claws and just shred them with that. Alright, now it's time to try this stuff out. This is how I'm going to make it from now on. Let me tell you, man, you can taste the apple juice in this stuff. It is phenomenal. Wow, thanks. My buddy Chris gave me this recipe. Thanks, Chris. So that's it. We're going to turn these into some sandwiches. A little bit of barbecue sauce, a little bit of melted cheese. If you need a good barbecue sauce, I'll leave a card up here for my Candied jalapeno barbecue sauce. This stuff is awesome. Also leave a link in the description below for the recipe for that. As always, appreciate everybody's time. If you're not a subscriber, consider subscribing, like and share the video, and we'll see you next time.